You won't believe who showed up on this panel today.
Tell you what, for what she's done, they should lock her up. She's disgraceful. It's disgraceful. Hillary Clinton has to go to jail, okay? She has to go to jail. You should lock them up. Lock up the Bidens. Lock up Hillary.
All right, so tale as old as time. Lock her up. This was 2016. This was 4 years before Joe Biden. This was 4 years before the alleged lawfare. Lock her.
All right, everyone. Something unexpected happened on this panel, and it definitely caught my attention. Two very familiar personalities popped up.
I can't even conceive of 3 more years of this. It really is. What's happening to our kids? Their brains are already being scrambled by social media and everything else we didn't even talk about. But this is their role model? A guy who calls someone a retard? A guy who calls someone a piggy? This is our role model, the President of the United States?
Over the last 6 months, Newsom has been emulating Trump's brash, all-caps-laden, and often AI-generated social media persona. And it's not just Democrats. Listen to these Republicans who rejected the president's demand for a new map in Indiana.
The efforts were mean-spirited from the get-go. So, I think they get what they get. I wish that President Trump would change his tone.
I had released a post about my displeasure over some the slur that the president used. Words have consequences, and for me, it was just added to a litany of reasons of why this was just bad policy and not good timing, and wasn't deserving of my support.
That last Indiana lawmaker that you just heard, one of the reasons that he said that he rejected this map was when he heard Trump use the R-word slur. He has a child with a disability. And I wonder if Gavin Newsom, you think, Brianna, is hitting on something that is bubbling up here. When you have Republicans saying Trump is going too far, is that a sentiment that could hurt Trump and Republicans going forward?
I don't think so. I think to the state senator, Bo Boachek, who just spoke, I can understand why a parent with a child with Down syndrome would be sensitive to the use of the R word, and I completely agree. But I do think to his point about words mattering, words matter, but policies matter more. And if he cares about the dignity of people and children with Down syndrome, that he should want to make sure Republicans have a good, fair fighting chance in Congress, because it's parties like Congressman Moskowitz's party who votes against legislation that would ban abortion solely on the basis of Down syndrome. And so if you want to focus on the dignity of those with Down syndrome, words may hurt, but policies will hurt more. So I think he should have voted with the Republicans to redistrict.
Not having insurance is also going to hurt.
So you're fine.
You're fine.
Yeah,
you
your party
think it's
voted,
important for
voted it down.
For on the abortion piece, for children with Down syndrome to have a chance of life. But when they are here, you're fine with the president denigrating them with a slur?
Abby, I think everybody at this table, at least for my generation, the lexicon, unfortunately, uses the R word not to smear or malign
on a
anybody.
Playground in fifth grade.
No,
not
Abby,
the
I'm telling you right now, that is a word that unfortunately is just thrown around as if you're calling someone an idiot or a moron. I'm not defending it, but I'm saying that President Trump certainly was not using it to attack someone who has a legitimate disability. I think we all know that too. Calling Tim Walz the R word is not trying to say Tim Walz has Down syndrome.
Well, look, Tim Walz also has a child with disability.
What stood out to me in that moment was how casually the comment was made about people from Somalia, as if dismissing an entire country was somehow acceptable. When you hear something like that, the immediate reaction is disbelief. You're left wondering how anyone could say something like that publicly and expect it to pass without criticism. Yet what happens next is almost predictable. People rush in to defend it or explain it away. And that pattern isn't limited to one individual anymore. Over time, that style of rhetoric has become normalized across a broader part of the political conversation. Language that once would have been widely condemned now gets brushed aside or justified. Instead of pushing back, many political allies step in to reinterpret the remark, soften it, or pretend it wasn't meant the way it sounded. What's striking is how much the tone of political debate has shifted. For years, there were at least some basic boundaries. Lines most public figures knew not to cross. But those lines seem to have faded.
We got used to Trump defying gravity. And we thought, you know, a lot of people thought that that was going to happen forever. I think that gravity is now taking hold. I believe that there's a political gravity that's happening with Donald Trump because people are getting exhausted by it. I think this is what was happening at the end of the first term. And I think this is where Newsom has to tread a little bit more lightly here, because emulating Donald Trump, by the end of his presidency, people were exhausted by Donald Trump. They did not want exact replica of Donald Trump. They wanted something completely different from that. And I think that, you know, Gavin Newsom has to figure out if he wants to continue the next 3 years as being anti-Trump by being a kind of a mirror image of him.
Yeah, can he do both?
But that's
Ezra Klein has an interview with him basically saying he is the front runner for the Democratic Party. Yet what did he put out? An AI-generated photo of the President of the United States in handcuffs this week. He told the Indiana governor, get down on your knees today in a post on X. So, I don't know, on one hand, the president can't do it, but yet Gavin Newsom is now the front runner for...
Now, I'll be the first to admit that political commentary often includes criticism and even sarcasm. Calling out bad arguments or mocking hypocrisy is part of the tradition of political debate. But there's a difference between sharp criticism and language that targets people based on identity, religion, or ethnicity. Once discussions cross into that territory, the conversation stops being about policy or ideas and starts becoming something much darker. And what we see repeatedly is the same pattern of labeling and demonizing groups of people, portraying them as dangerous, unqualified, or somehow less deserving. Terms get used that sound technical or political on the surface, but in practice they function as coded ways of dismissing entire communities. It becomes a cycle of suspicion and accusation directed at certain groups again and again. At the same time, there's a noticeable selectiveness in who gets targeted and who doesn't. Some communities are constantly placed under scrutiny, while others are rarely mentioned in the same way. That imbalance raises obvious questions about what's really driving the rhetoric in the first place. And when you step back and look at the pattern, it's hard not to notice the broader effect. Language like this doesn't just stay within political debates. It shapes how people see one another.
He has done his entire political career.
Tell you what, for what she's done, they should lock her up. She's disgraceful. It's disgraceful. Hillary Clinton has to go to jail, okay? She has to go to jail. You should lock them up. Lock up the Bidens. Lock up Hillary.
All right, so tale as old as time. Lock her up. This was 2016. This was 4 years before Joe Biden. This was 4 years before the alleged lawfare. Lock her up. What are we talking about here?
First of all, he said should. Did Donald Trump weaponize his Department of Justice to lock Hillary Clinton up? No, he didn't. But did Joe Biden's lock up Peter Navarro, Steve Bannon, try Donald Trump?
The reporting is, in his first term, he certainly tried. And he normalized this whole thing.
It is
and
normalized.
I'm going to go, you know, when they go low, I go lower. That's the thing that people are saying these days. That the actual representation of that is this. How do you go to the American people and then say, kick those people out and put me in instead?
Because it's the politics of escalation. That is what is going on in the House that I serve in. That's what I see every single solitary day. I mean, again, right, you remove one person from committee on one side, the next year they remove two. You remove two, they remove four. They don't like what Biden's DOJ did, what Trump's DOJ is worse. Okay, and so it's the politics of escalation. And so Democrats could decide not to play. But then we lose, then we lose in the communications game. Then Democrats say, we're not fighters, we're not fighting. The reason Gavin is rising is that they look at him as a fighter. They may not like the game, but he's playing to win.
All right.
Well,
very quick.
Okay. I think that I would offer this to other liberals out there. The tit for tatting with the memes feels good. Eventually, someone's going to have to wake up and realize that this is fascism that's approaching.
Oh,
it's not going to be. It's not going to just be a
goodness.
meme that's going to be the response.
Lordy.
There's going to have to be more people in the streets. There's going to have to be more really hard decisions made about how you want to live and what your future should look like. And that's not going to just be.
I've got a little theme song for that moment. If you catch the reference, you'll know exactly what I mean. The irony of situations like this is almost predictable. The same people who constantly dish out insults and outrage suddenly become incredibly sensitive the moment the energy gets turned back on them. The reaction is immediate: complaints, outrage, and endless commentary about how unfair it is. That dynamic explains a lot about the way certain political figures behave. There's this constant fixation on projecting toughness or dominance, almost like they're trying to convince everyone, and maybe themselves, that they're the strongest people in the room. But underneath that performance, the response to criticism, often reveals something very different. The moment the same style of rhetoric comes back their way, the tone shifts from confidence to outrage, and that's part of the broader pattern. Some politicians regularly accuse opponents of extreme things, throw around the harshest labels imaginable, and use language that escalates every disagreement into something dramatic. Yet, if someone repeats their own words back to them or challenges them in the same tone, suddenly it becomes a major controversy. That contradiction is hard to miss. The expectation seems to be that one side should absorb every insult quietly while the other side is free to say whatever it wants. But once the criticism starts flowing in both directions, the reaction is shock, almost as if the rules were supposed to apply to only one group. This is why some people believe the political response needs to change. For years there has been a push to keep debates civil and measured, to stay above the fray even when the rhetoric coming from the other side becomes increasingly aggressive. The problem is that when one side escalates and the other refuses to respond in kind, the imbalance becomes obvious. Of course, activism and policy advocacy still matter. Protests, organizing, pushing for healthcare reform or economic policy, those are the core pieces of political work. But there's also a communication battle happening in the public arena. And when one side consistently dominates the tone of that arena with aggressive messaging, refusing to push back can create the appearance of weakness, whether that perception is fair or not. Many voters don't follow every policy debate closely. What they often see, instead, are short clips, headlines, and moments from political arguments. In that environment, optics matter. When a political movement appears unwilling to challenge harsh attacks or misinformation, some viewers interpret that as a lack of confidence rather than restraint. That's why some commentators argue that the response has to change. Not necessarily abandoning principles, but showing that attacks won't simply go unanswered. Political debate isn't always a quiet academic discussion anymore. Increasingly, it resembles a competitive arena where messaging and narrative shape public perception just as much as policy details do. At the end of the day, the rules of engagement have clearly shifted. Whether people like it or not, the tone of modern political discourse is far more confrontational than it used to be. And if one side insists on escalating the rhetoric, the other side eventually has to decide how it plans to respond. So when you step back and look at the bigger picture, the real issue isn't just one comment or one heated exchange. It's the direction political discourse has been moving for years now. The tone keeps getting sharper, the accusations keep getting more extreme, and entire groups of people are increasingly being portrayed as threats or enemies rather than fellow citizens. And once that kind of rhetoric becomes normalized, it doesn't stay contained inside political debates. It starts shaping the atmosphere of the entire country. That's why moments like this matter. They reveal how political messaging is evolving and how both sides are responding to it. Some argue that stronger pushback is necessary, while others worry that escalating the rhetoric further could make an already tense political environment even more volatile. Either way, the conversation about how leaders speak and how those words influence public attitudes is becoming more important than ever. So what are your thoughts on how this kind of rhetoric contributes to the rise of political threats and hostility in today's political climate? Do you think responding more aggressively helps push back against it, or does it risk making the problem worse? Let me know your perspective down in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. That support really does help us out. Until next time, this has been the Policy Vaults, where we cut through the noise so you don't have to. Thanks for watching.